Central Bank of Nigeria issues fresh directives on foreign currency payment of diaspora remittance. Auto gas policy will create 2 million jobs, says Minister of Petroleum. Federal government begins disbursement of transport support scheme. President Muhammadu Buhari writes Senate seeks approval for finance bill. And what happens next as Nigeria submits AfCFTA ratification? This and other questions will be answered on our discussion segment. The program is Business Express and it's reaching you on the network service of the NTA from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. Always so glad to have you tuned to Business Express. The Central Bank of Nigeria has issued fresh directives to international money transfer operators on foreign currency payment in cash to beneficiaries of diaspora remittances. The fresh directives follow the new rules unveiled by the Apex Bank on Monday, which allow beneficiaries of diaspora remittances to collect the proceeds as cash in foreign currency. Director Trade and Exchange Department of the CBN clarifies that all international money transfer operators must ensure all funds in favor of beneficiaries and recipients in Nigeria be deposited into the agent bank's correspondent account. Agent banks for deposit money banks in Nigeria will be responsible for all payments to beneficiaries either in foreign currency cash or into the beneficiary's domiciliary account in Nigeria. Similarly, the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN has announced the introduction of special bills as part of efforts to deepen the financial markets and avail the monetary authority an additional liquidity management tool. A release from the Director of Banking Supervision, Bello Hassan, reveals that the features of the CBN special bills include a 90-day tenor, zero coupon, with an applicable yield at issuance to be determined by the CBN. The instrument will be tradable amongst banks, retail and institutional investors, as well as the instrument shall not be accepted for repurchase agreement transactions with the CBN and shall not be discountable at the CBN window. Additionally, the instrument will qualify as liquid assets in the computation of liquidity ratio for deposit money banks. The statement adds that the CBN will continue to ensure optimal regulation of systemic liquidity and promote efficient financial markets in support of economic recovery and sustained growth. The Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) has disclosed that the window of opportunity for waivers of penalties and interest on outstanding taxes arising from desk examinations, audit exercises, investigations, or all other forms of tax assessment will close on December 31st, 2020. In a release from the Office of the Director Communications, Abdullahi Ahmad, the FIRS has urged taxpayers in the country to take advantage of the remaining days of this month to settle their tax obligations in order to enjoy all subsisting waivers offered by the service. Executive Chairman FIRS Mohammed Nami said all concerned taxpayers are hereby put on notice that after the expiration date of 31st December 2020, the service shall recover all outstanding debt with penalties and interest in accordance with the provisions of the extant tax laws, such as the power of substitution conferred on it by Section 31 of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act 2007. Meanwhile, the Bank of Industry, African Development Bank, and the International Monetary Fund for Agricultural Development have approved $2 billion loan to reduce poverty, end hunger, and increase resilience to climate change in rural communities around Nigeria. The loans will be used to drive the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones project in the country aimed at raising the productivity and competitiveness of the country's agriculture sector. The project, which is promoted by AFDB, will help the government to expand economic opportunities in the agri sector by enhancing processing infrastructure and services to rural families. Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the AFDB President, Professor Oyebanji Oyelaran Oyeyinka, said $1 billion is coming from the Bank of Industry, $500 million from the AFDB, and $200 million was pledged by IFAD. In another development, the federal government has announced the commencement of its Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survival Fund for the transport sector. The Transport Track Scheme has 30,000 naira each for 330,000 transporters who drive buses, taxis, tricycles, motorcycles, or are in any other kind of transport business, with a minimum of 4,500 people in each state expected to benefit from the fund.
Peanuts and think that you're doing them favors. That has stopped. That's the directive from Mr. President. It has stopped. Not with the survival fund. We have paid people, we keep paying people.
Taxi driver, bus drivers, keke napep drivers, okada riders, cart pushers, etc. To take advantage of this scheme, it is absolutely free. Do not pay anyone to benefit.
As Nigeria and Africa count down to the AfCFTA commencement, the Nigerian government ratified the agreement on November 12 ahead of the December 5th deadline issued by the African Union to its 55 member states, with Nigeria now submitting ratification. What is next? Yinka Adeyemi is Senior Trade Advisor at the African Trade Policy Center. The center is part of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He joins me now from New York to look at Nigeria's ratification of the AfCFTA and the future of trade on the continent. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So, just yesterday, Nigeria deposited her ratification instrument with the AUC on Addis Ababa. What does this signify for Nigeria and Africa?
Yeah, thank you again. The deposit of the instrument is really something we have been waiting for a while. What this signifies is huge. For Nigeria, it opens up a market that is $2.5 trillion, a continental market of $2.5 trillion, and in terms of population, about 1.2, 1.3 billion. Now, that is massive. Now, one of the things that Nigeria has been worrying about, which we really advise against, is to hyperventilate on the state of its manufacturing and industry. This is important to do, but it's not the whole story. Nigeria dominates in trading services, in telecommunications, in banking, in Nollywood. These are areas that really are contributing about 56% to Nigeria's GDP. So why we worry about our industrial base, it's a legitimate thing to worry about. Let us capitalize as soon as January 1. Let us start capitalizing more on trade in services while we build the infrastructure to spring up our manufacturing base.
All right, the AfCFTA is to take off in January. However, we've seen hurdles along the way. The COVID-19 is prominent among them. What are those things that you see Nigeria and other African countries facing? What are the challenges, actually?
Yes, I see the COVID-19 as an opportunity and not solely as a challenge. It's an opportunity for us to learn to prepare for the next emergency. It does not need to be a pandemic. It could be any other thing that would destabilize our economies. So that is the first challenge. Now, the whole thing now is to get ready the secretariat, to make sure the secretariat is solid and ready to spring into action. The way it is now, it is not optimal. It has taken up, the Secretary General is there with some minimal staff, but this is why African countries have to come together and support the Secretariat. We are pledged to do that as the United Nations. We will be doing that in whichever way that the Secretariat needs us. So, but this is something we do, and I'm very happy to also say that the African Capacity Building Foundation, which incidentally is led also by Nigeria, has also pledged to support the Secretariat. Otherwise, it cannot really carry out the mandate that the heads of state have asked it to do.
All right. So, what are those necessary steps Nigeria needs to take to be able to fully maximize the trade agreement? What are those steps we have not taken that you think we need to take?
Good. Now, let me start by saying that Nigeria is in a better place right now because Nigeria did something that was not done by many countries. Nigeria did a comprehensive study on the impact, the possible impact of the CFTA on its economy. So as we speak, Nigeria knows what happens if it loses some tariff. Nigeria knows what will happen if somebody violates the rules of origin or somebody tries to dump. Nigeria knows this. Nigeria has a clear idea how to mitigate those things. So that's the first advantage that Nigeria did. Secondly, Nigeria has to operationalize a national strategy. We are supporting the country in that regard, just as we are supporting 37 other African countries. What does this mean? Now that we have ratified, ratification is the beginning of the issue. It has to, for something to be ratified, you have to be able to domesticate it into your laws, to your policies, to your regulations. So ratification is just the beginning. So what Nigeria must do then is design a national strategy around whatever it considers priorities. It could be financing, it could be investment, it could be industrialization, it could be value addition, it could be rules of origin. Nigeria picks whatever it's important. It could be all of this together. And then we design an implementation strategy. You carry on the private sector and the labor unions and all the other stakeholders. And then we will give support. And we have pledged that already to the Honorable Minister of Industry, Otumba Adebayo. We've already done that. Others have done the same thing. So we will be there to hold Nigeria's hands and accompany it as it implements.
All right, there's this debate about standardization and quality of products from Nigeria as well as some other African countries. Where does this place Nigeria? What's our position?
Yeah, the issue of standardization is critical, not only to Nigeria, but Africa. We have been able to miss a lot of chances because our products are just not of the standard that can penetrate the markets that we should. I give you the example of AGOA, the US initiative that says, African countries, bring your product into our country duty-free. Not many countries have been able to take advantage of that. So now this is one reason we have to also support ASO. The ASO is the regional organization on standards in Africa. And then we have to support SON, the Standard Organization of Nigeria. We have also pledged to do the same, to do through Manufacturing Association. We will give support to Nigeria in that regard, because no matter how good your products are, if it cannot penetrate Western markets, what use is it? It cannot penetrate because of deficits in packaging, in the sanitary and phytosanitary standards, so many other issues. So this is not a problem that is peculiar to Nigeria. It's an African issue. we will also, as part of our support for CFTA, we will accompany Nigeria in that regard too.
All right, Mr. Adeyemi, how aware are members of the business community of the processes involved in borderless trade, as they would have to deal with packaging, payments, and a whole lot of other procedures?
This is a very crucial question that you have asked. CFTA will rise and fall with the private sector. They have to know how to take advantage of it. They have to be able to know what the pitfalls are and what the advantages are. Now, if they don't know that, they cannot take advantage of the fact that that goods can move, persons and goods can move across borders. Now, to do that, we also, the Nigerian government has to help in dealing with the trade barriers, the tariffs, and the non-tariff barriers. The non-tariff barriers are those obstacles that you cannot write down. Those things that you go through at the border segment. When some official shakes you down, or when they delay your truck for 3 days, when it should have been cleared within 5 hours. Those things have to be taken care of, and the private sector has to know this. Has to know how do we take advantage of this? What is it for us? And this is why I am very happy that since President Buhari inaugurated the National Action Committee, which is co-chaired by the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Industry, we have been supporting them too in strategic communication, in making people understand that this thing is really good for them. Now, in keeping their minds not totally focused on the short-term tariff loss, so that they can focus on the long-term welfare gains that comes with free movement of goods, persons, and services across borders.
All right, before I let you go, perhaps you could shed more light on the whole question of the Secretariat not likely to be ready before the takeoff dates. What do you think about that?
I've heard it, but I don't know where it is coming from.
Okay.
I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago, the 7th think tank summit, when this issue came up. And then, of course, it was announced that they don't have 100% of their budget yet. But the Secretary General is a person that I have worked with in the past in this the CFTA business. He is already in Accra. He has his staff there. Some other directors are supposed to resume in January. Now, it is possible that the whole staff complement is not in place. That is also not unusual. But I am confident that the Secretariat will spring up. All we have to do is make sure that we finish the ongoing negotiations, especially the phase 2 negotiations on intellectual property, on competition policy, on investment, and decide whether the digital economy is going to be integrated into this negotiation or form a third phase of negotiation. Once we do all of that, and then, by the way, make sure that we coordinate and harmonize customs across Africa. Customs in terms of tariffs, in terms of transit, and all of this other stuff. So once we do that, I think the Secretariat will be able to do its own work, which is to coordinate, to make sure trade is in line with the rules. And then we must support. If we don't support the Secretariat, then it will fail. But because the competent people are already there, it has to be supported by the United Nations system, by multilaterals, by bilaterals, and by member states.
All right, thank you so much. I guess we have to end the conversation here. We've been speaking to Yinka Adeyemi, who is a senior trade advisor at the African Trade Policy Center. We spoke with him from New York. Thank you so much for your time on Business Express today.
Thank you. Good luck.
The federal government is engaging the services of expatriates in areas with short supply of requisite professional manpower to manage critical sectors of the nation's economy, which will be premised on a mutually beneficial condition. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola was speaking during the inauguration of 9 members. The committee is expected to carry out monitoring and enforcement of the new order.
Agriculture quota and business permit will not only generate employment and revenue, it will surely produce desired results of ensuring that our best is done in providing employment opportunity for our teeming youth.
We do our best to ensure that we give the best account of ourselves as possible, ensure that Nigerians are employed in line with the law, and ensure that foreigners obey our rules.
And talking stocks, Nigerian stocks ended Wednesday's trading session on negative note. The NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 0.26% to close at 35,056.82 basis points. Market capitalization was at 18.3 trillion naira. 347 million units of shares valued at 4.7 billion naira exchanged hands in 4,575 deals. Outside the country, stock futures dipped slightly after a strong start to December. Benny Adams has a summary of market activity.
Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine wins approval in first country as UK prepares for rollout next week. This piece of information has sent stocks around the world on a rally, with shares in Pfizer rising close to 4% in pre-market trading, while BioNTech stocks climb more than 7% ahead of US Open at early trading hours in Nigeria. The Dow had 0.63% rise to 29,823.92 points. The S&P 500 added 1.13% to 3,662.45 points, and Nasdaq gained 1.28% to 12,355.11 points. In Europe, London's FTSE 100 gained 0.16% to sit at 6,394.83 points. The German DAX and France's CAC 40 are trading in the red. Stocks in Asia were mixed, with Nikkei 225 of Japan rising marginally by 0.05%, while the Hang Seng lost 0.13% and the Shanghai Composite lost 0.07%. Back home in Africa, it was a mixed grill of adds and drops. South Africa's JSE gained 0.72% in early trade. Kenya's index lost 0.56%. Tunisia's Tune Index gained 0.25%.
And this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback. Join us again on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. for another package. I am Muplang Dakok saying stay safe.